So I am Michael Casey, and I'm the chairman of the Advanced AI Society, which is a new organization representing developers of decentralized AI technology based on blockchain principles. Before that, I was the chief content officer at CoinDesk. I'm a senior advisor to the MIT Media Lab's Digital Currency Initiative, and I'm the author of a number of books about blockchain and distributed technologies. Yeah, so stablecoins bring the real advantages of cryptocurrency blockchains, which involves immediate settlement, 24/7, 365 operations, ease of access, and sort of a permissionless architecture that allows for the development of applications and everything in a much easier foundation than if you were using the financial system. So all of that pre-existed in the crypto environment. Now, with stablecoins, we're able to do all of that, but with traditional currencies as the basis, right? So we're not having to face the volatility of the crypto token. We have a stable coin of value, whether it's the Korean won or the US dollar or the euro or whatever the particular stable token is based upon. Yes, it's very important that regulators are as part of this conversation. I think without regulatory assurances, people will not trust the technology. So we need to have a regulatory framework, for example, that guarantees that the reserves that are held as the backstop, the underlying proof of the value of a stablecoin, are managed responsibly, are accounted for on a regular basis, and are placed in reliable and safe investments. All of that, is built around a regulatory framework, and then if that's the case, people can start to trust the technology. So that's the right reason for regulation. What you don't want that regulation to do, though, is to try to jam all of these ideas into the traditional banking system, which is very inefficient, right? There is a long delays in settlement, and there's none of this open architecture, so you don't have the innovation happening in the banking system. It needs to be built on this permissionless open structure. That's a key point. In my presentation, I also made the argument that it's really important for national regulatory frameworks to support the development of domestically denominated stablecoins, that they are not just in dollars. I do think there is a real risk that if a dollar-denominated stablecoin was just to flood around the world, it could be very disruptive to the economies of the world. It could undermine monetary sovereignty and take away the capacity of these nations to set the policies and the frameworks for their own economic development. So it's really important that these locally based stablecoins, the Korean won stablecoin, for example, are developed. But again, they need to be developed to allow for interoperability, to allow for an open system that means you can the money can flow freely within the country and then across borders as well. So the intersection between stablecoins and decentralized finance is very interesting. Basically, they allow for what we call programmable money. We can turn money from being an analog bank-based slow process into something that represents software. And so DeFi, which is a composable system for creating innovative forms of finance on basis of blockchains, it needs some unit to represent the payment vehicle. Previously, a lot of the early DeFi was done on ETH, right? Ether from Ethereum was used as the currency that was payments. Now, with stablecoins, we can bring into that environment something that represents the real world fiat currencies that are used in the general public. And so now you have an opportunity to interact these things two together. As to the traditional finance, as I said before, it's very important that that intersection happens with a view towards the open architecture. So obviously, we need to have interactions with banks. If banks are now able to process stablecoin transactions, and if they're able to provide banking services to the providers of those stablecoins so that they have a bank account behind them, then we'll be in a much better position to grow this industry. But again, those banks need to be able to recognize and support the free flow of those tokens, so that they need innovative approaches to identity, to KYC, to AML. They need to ensure that this is a real-time 24/7 settlement environment and that there's interoperability across chains. If we start re-centralizing everything within the banking and central banking structure, we lose all of the advantages that would otherwise be there in the exchange between merchants and customers and cross-border flows that would and can happen if you have an open system of tokens in exchange? Yes, it's a very important question, and it's something that I addressed indirectly in my speech. I think that, as I said before, it's very important that national stablecoins are allowed to develop. And then the question becomes, how do those national stablecoins interact with each other? How does the money flow around the world? Right now, the global financial system is based on dollars and systems like SWIFT and so forth that enable this transaction. What's gonna have to happen in a stablecoin environment is a blockchain-based protocol for foreign exchange. So we're gonna have to have smart contract structures that enable the management of volatility and risk so that it's easier for people to move money around. For the time being, I think that's gonna mean that the dollar, or at least stablecoin dollars, are going to sit in the middle of those transactions and be the kind of clearing currency for those systems. But ultimately, what's needed is a much more almost currency-free form of interoperability, so that the Korean won can be exchanged directly with the Japanese yen, and we can still manage risk with the use of smart contracts. That's a more complicated project, but it means that you're going to need countries to come together and support the development of that kind of a framework. I don't think it should be run by the government or even by a multilateral institution, but governments should support the development of open architectures like the internet that would sort of support this interoperability. So we need private sector development, but governments need to collaborate together in allowing for that private sector development to happen.
Are we getting there, or are we still in the process?
That idea is a long way off, right? There's a lot of, so we're just seeing how all this evolves, right? And so, but it's very urgent that we deal with it, because AI, artificial intelligence, is going to be a driver of change. We're going to have to make sure that our systems have programmable money, and stablecoins are programmable. So it's going to grow very rapidly as AI grows. When we do, let's make sure that this system starts to interoperate. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, there's a positive vision and a negative vision. A negative vision to me would be that US dollar stablecoins move from just being dollar dominance, which is the fact to say that the dollars dominate the international reserve currency and capital marketplace for clearing, and they go even further, and they start being used domestically, for domestic transactions. That becomes a process of currency substitution, which I think would be very dangerous, because it would undermine the sovereignty of those nations and undermine, in many respects, even the cultural hegemony of those places, because this, again, will happen in the context of AI, right? AI is going to be a big thing in the next 5 to 10 years, and agentic commerce will be a feature of how, if not the feature, of how our economy runs. If we're going to have that sort of monetary system within that agentic economy, all denominated in dollars, then we run the risk of homogenization, that this is something that becomes almost dictated by Silicon Valley and America, and we don't want that. We want diversity, and we want representation and self-determination of the people who set the rules. So that's the negative vision. The positive vision would be that there would be a system in which each country has its own stable coin that's founded upon their own reliable policies, that's their own democratic systems. None of that works perfectly right now, so obviously we need to assume that that's going to be better. But nonetheless, that is where I see the vision going, and then on top of that is an interoperable system that enables all of that. Yeah, so I think that let's look at the three of those. So for regulators, I think we should take an approach that is similar to what was done during the age of the internet expansion in the middle of the 90s. The 1996 Telecoms Act in the United States was all about promoting open systems, right? And so we got all of the regulatory frameworks for the internet, like ICANN and IETF, and these regulatory frameworks specifically designed to not have these bottlenecks of control over the structure of the internet. We need the same mindset from regulators on a global basis as to how we design the system of monetary exchange within a stablecoin environment. That was the first advice to them. When it comes to blockchain developers, I think that they need to be open to working with the regulatory institutions. I don't think we're going to get anywhere unless we embrace their concerns. It doesn't mean that we should accept every model that regulators say, and we should push back against things that are not conducive to an open system. However, being innovative around things like KYC and identity and illicit finance control and anti-money laundering, all of those things are going to be very important. We need to be very creative as to how we help the regulators deal with their concerns about illicit finance and things like that. And then as to investors, well, I think what's really interesting again about an open system, stablecoins are going to unlock a lot of innovation here. I'd like to see investors start to invest in applications that really turn this programmable money into something very powerful, right? Financial inclusion, new systems for cross-border payments, supply chains that have automated payments models in them that create much more efficiency, right? Think about money, and programmable money in particular, as a building block for doing creative things. Because at the end of the day, if we get the money right, we can start to fix a lot of the problems with all of the inefficiencies that exist in our climate change challenged world. So try to be innovative around applications built on top of this emerging framework of stablecoin programmable money. Well, it's a huge honor to be here, and I think the very fact that this forum is sitting alongside the Apex Summit helps to elevate the importance of the conversation. This isn't just a crypto navel-gazing exercise where everybody in the crypto space is talking amongst ourselves, but we've got people from government and regulators and sort of the more mainstream financial establishment is here. So that just makes this conversation all the more important. So I'm thrilled to be here. It's an honor. It's my second time that I've worked on an event with Dunamu, and I'm really happy to be part of this